Hey, everybody, this is Brian. Welcome back to Cryptid Creatures Podcast. This is my co host, Todd. What's going on, Todd?
Hey, Brian, what's happening, man?
Oh, man, living the dream.
Right on, me too. Been looking at a lot of stuff online and seeing a lot of stuff about some encounters going on and talking to some people.
Good.
And
we need to get some more people on here.
Yeah, getting excited about getting some people on the show for sure.
Yeah.
Trying to get some hold of some people. Throwing it out there to everybody. If you're listening to the show and you've had an encounter or you know somebody, have them get a hold of us. Info at
Absolutely.
Cryptid Creatures. Info at cryptidcreatures.co.
That's right. Or you can get us at Instagram at cryptid_creatures.
Yep. So yeah, just digging into that and staying busy. It's exciting reaching out to these people and friending these people on Facebook. We have
I'm liking to reading some of these stories you're sending me.
A Cryptid Creatures Facebook group now. People can come out and join. Going to go on the public side of that thing and put some stuff on there. But yeah, so we're staying busy. We're getting a lot of listens too. We're growing. We appreciate.
We're getting there. We're trying to get our YouTube channel up and running too. So
yes, definitely.
All the podcasts are on there now. Hopefully, we'll have some video soon on there for you guys. So
yep. Once I get myself looking a little better, we can put that on the live TV. I'm kidding.
Right.
But no, yeah, I'm just pumped about everything. We're going to be going to the Kentucky, Lexington, or we're going to try to make it to the Lexington, Kentucky Expo, Cryptid Expo down there in November 2021.
Hopefully we'll make it down there for that.
Yeah, we're going to try and
have a little booth set up, maybe even do a live stream from there.
Yeah, for sure. But yeah, good things are coming. Just want to thank everybody for listening.
Yes, thank you all very much.
So we appreciate it, and we'll continue to bring you good stuff.
Yes, we will.
Like this episode, Brian.
Oh, what do we got?
What do you know about swimming Sasquatches, Brian?
Not a lot. I didn't realize they could swim.
We're going to learn something tonight. We got Sara coming on.
Well, all right. I'm excited.
Me too. We'll bring her on. You ready?
All right, let's get this show started.
We'll bring her on, man. Here we go. All right, Sara, welcome to the show. How are you doing?
I'm good. Thank you for having me.
We're happy you're here.
Thanks for being on. Yes, thanks for being on.
Yeah, we're excited.
We appreciate it very much.
Thank you.
So you come from north of Seattle area. That's kind of where you originate from and where you had your encounters that you're going to talk about tonight. You from that area all your life, basically?
Around the area. I've been here in Tulalip for about 31 years, maybe.
Okay. So when you were a child, how old were you when you first had that incident you told me about in the boat?
Oh, in my late teens.
Okay. So before you saw that, and then before you had your incident, your other incident, before we get going here, did you believe in Bigfoot at the time or have knowledge of Bigfoot?
I hadn't had any sightings firsthand, but I believe that they probably existed, at least at one time, because there were so many people I'd known that had seen them and so many Native American, legends going all the way back of these being a real creature in the environment. So I kind of figured they probably did exist. I didn't know if I'd ever see one.
Mm-hmm. Well, why don't you tell us about your first incident when you were younger in the boat, like you were telling me about?
Yeah, so I used to be the spotter on my dad's boat because I had the best eyes. So I would sit out on the bow and just watch for debris. And a lot of times you'd see sea lions and seals kind of pop their head up and look around and go back down. So the one time we were in an area where actually it was exactly the same area where we had our sighting later. And it was an area where I had also seen from the water, I had seen many different times trees shaking, just one tree at a time when there's no wind. So that was weird. But this day, I was watching and I saw a head pop up and immediately recognized, through the binoculars, it wasn't a pinniped of any kind. It was a larger head and it was primate looking. And it just happened so quickly before I could alert anybody and point it out he'd gone down. So I didn't know what to think of that. I just kind of chalked it up to whatever. But
how long did it did it stay above water?
Maybe 4 or 5 seconds, just to pop its head up, kind of look around, and went right back down.
And was this during the daylight when this happened? And how far away do you think his face was when you saw that?
Probably about 20 or 30 yards.
Maybe not quite enough to make out detail, but you knew it was kind of primate looking anyway? Or
right. With the binoculars, I had a pretty good set of binoculars, and you know, it was obvious to me it was a primate.
So you saw it with the binoculars. Okay.
Yeah.
Okay. Gotcha.
Wow. Okay.
But, you know, like I said, he went down so quickly before I could say, Dad, look, it went back down. So, and I never saw it come back up again.
Did you tell your dad about it?
Oh, yeah. I tried to get his attention. You know, he was busy working, but he just kind of shrugged. I don't know what he thought of it. So right in that same area, I guess it would have been about maybe 5 years later, I was with my son, who was 5 years old at the time, and a couple of my nieces, one of their husbands, another nephew. They were all 18, 19. And it was an early morning. It was about 9:30. It was in April of 94. And we all got in the car and went down to a local area here on the reservation. It's just private tribal land, you know, so there's no houses around. And we were the only people there. And so we had to pull quite a ways down off the highway anyway. And you get to a point where you can park, and it's kind of back in the trees overlooking the water, but it's sort of up on the hillside. So from down at the beach, you can't really see, you know, who's up there. But anyway, as we got out, we noticed coming across the water from Camino Island was a group of what looked like just fat logs, and they were kind of cutting against the current, coming straight for the shore where we were. And so, you know, we watched for a while because anything else in the water was moving a different direction, and these were just cutting straight for where we were. And when they got to the edge of the shore, and the tide was up quite a ways, so there wasn't a whole lot of beach, but they got out and crawled on all fours up to just up the length of the beach and stood up and just kind of went up the embankment into the woods, and that was it. They disappeared in the trees.
Wow.
So, yeah.
When you say they, how many and what exactly are you talking about?
Well, there were 5 of them, and I only know to call them Bigfoots.
Okay.
I wouldn't know any other thing to call them. So we all kind of huddled up down at the beach for a little bit and let them pass through the area. And we finally decided it was safe to try to get back to the car. And on the way up the bank, the trail took us within 8 or 10 feet of one that had stayed behind and was sitting in a tree just watching us. So I was the last one up the trail, and I just stopped. I just stopped in my tracks and took a few minutes to look him over. It was probably really only about a minute or two, but it seemed a lot longer. But I got a really good up-close look at him.
Wow.
They came back down and grabbed me by the arm and said, no. We're leaving.
But we're not messing with these.
Can we back up a minute? When you guys saw the 5 coming out of the water, what was your initial thought, feeling, emotion?
Well, I was terrified because I didn't know what to expect from them, and they're so big. And, you know, I had my son with me. So initially I thought we'd just better go and huddle up somewhere and let them pass because I don't know what to expect from them. So, but the one that stayed behind to watch us wasn't being aggressive or didn't seem, you know, like he was going to bother us in any way. So he wasn't doing anything to scare us. We were just kind of afraid because we didn't know what to expect, and we didn't know where the rest of the group went. Could you get a good look at the size of him or her? Or I think that it was a male. Just the way he was sitting, it was not possible to really see the genital area, but there were no breasts, and he just had a real masculine look. He was real big. I would think if he stood up, he would have been at least 7 feet tall, based on a friend he had at the time that was 6'5", and I know if he was sitting next to this guy, he would have dwarfed him. So,
wow.
Yeah, I would guess at least 7 foot tall.
So, looking at this one's face versus what you saw of the face of the one in the water, did they look similar to you?
Now, the ones in the water, I wasn't really close enough to make out real super, a whole lot of facial features, just that it looked really primate. You mean the one that popped his head up?
Yeah.
Yeah, they did look very similar.
Can you describe? Go ahead and describe the face of the one that you saw up close.
So, starting with the top of the head, it did have a real sort of a conical shaped head, with a high forehead. There was a real clear brow ridge, like an ape would have, with sort of a receding hairline above that. And he had really deep set, wide set eyes, brown, about the same color as mine. A real wide, flat nose. The mouth, the lips were really thin. He had a wide mouth with thin lips, like proportionate to the nose. If the nose was 4 inches, the mouth was probably 6 inches wide.
Okay.
And he was cinnamon in color, just about the color of a cinnamon stick.
Okay.
He looked similar to the animal seen in the Patterson-Gimlin film, but a little bit different color. Okay. The one in the film is more of a kind of a mahogany color, and really the hair on the face shows up more on the one in the film. This one didn't have quite as much hair on the face, or if he did, it was a little bit lighter.
Okay.
Did it look more human or ape-like to you?
He seemed, in his mannerisms, in his posture, and just kind of the way he was swinging his legs, he seemed way more human. But the features were definitely a mix of both.
He was just kind of sitting there swinging his legs off the like, hey, how's it going? Welcome.
He seemed like a youthful curiosity. I wondered if he may have been, an adolescent or a juvenile.
And he didn't have any.
See, that's what I said.
What's that, Brian?
That's what I said. It might have been a juvenile.
Yeah, you did mention that when I was telling you the story prior, getting you ready for the. That's amazing. So he just didn't care in the world that you were sitting there staring at him. He had no worries that you were staring at him. He didn't want to get up and take off. He just
he didn't seem aggressive. He didn't seem bothered by us.
Just making sure you were getting out of there. That's what he was doing.
Yeah, he was just sitting there. He had his right arm around the trunk of the tree, and his left arm just kind of at his side.
And, did you recognize him from the group that came out of the water, you think? Was he one of those? Did you recognize him?
Oh, I assumed he was one of them that came out of the water, but I couldn't say for sure. When we saw him coming out of the water, we were looking at them from, up on the hillside in the trees, so we could see what they were, but as far as their individual facial features, kind of the way we were looking down on them and the way they clambered up the beach, it wasn't really possible to see their faces.
And they were clearly. Probably wet, and you probably couldn't tell what color they really were, I'm guessing, but they all probably looked the same.
Right.
Were you... So how'd you get out of there? What happened? Did he leave? Did you leave?
We left. We got in the car and left. He was just sitting in the tree watching us go up the trail.
Did your son see him too? Or?
Yeah, everybody. All of us saw them.
Crazy.
That's awesome.
Yeah.
So were you, when you got in the car and you left, were you shaken? Were you terrified? Were you just kind of...
Oh, yeah. We were shaken, in a way that's hard to describe. Like, that's just not something you gloss over. It really affects you, at least for that, for the foreseeable future. We've been back many times to that spot.
So you said there's an island right out there. Do you think
there's an island across. It's there is a land bridge connecting, but it's Camino Island that's straight across where we were.
Because you don't
And
hear too many reports of swimming Bigfoot.
yeah,
So I was just wondering, maybe they live on the island, maybe go back and forth. Is that possible?
yeah, that
That's
side of
exactly what they're
Canada-
doing.
Yeah, that side of the island is pretty rugged and heavily wooded, and there aren't a lot of houses. So, it makes sense that they were hunting over there, whatever they do.
Mm-hmm.
And I wonder if there might be a group that lives in the area year round, because we have sightings. There were people last summer that saw a group in that area. And I've been
Also,
back to that.
they're not individual sightings. You see them, they're in packs.
Oh, yeah, we see packs and we see individuals out there as well. And I've been back there many times since then and seen things. One time, my husband and I went down there, and in the same sort of gully where they came up out of the water and entered the woods, there was a German Shepherd that was literally ripped in half. It wasn't eaten. It wasn't scattered. Something with hands take that animal and rip it in half.
Wow.
And no explanation. And then another time we were going down there and we were stopped by a big log in the road that was, it was big. It took 3 people to just kind of roll it out of the way. And we were trying to look around and see where in the heck that would have come from. And we couldn't figure out, anywhere right in the immediate vicinity that would have come from. Doesn't prove anything, but, it just kind of makes me wonder if maybe they are in the area more than we think.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
Come through this area more often.
I've got to say, where you're located, yeah, they're all over up there for sure, guaranteed.
Yeah.
What is it? The Olympic Mountain across the way there?
Are you close to the peninsula? The Olympic Peninsula?
Yeah, well, we're not close to it. We go there every year on vacation. It's absolutely beautiful. But in terms of the same kind of terrain, the waterways, the forests that blanket our area, it's real similar.
Okay.
And as far as the tribe, that my family's from here, the legends go way back of these creatures being in the area. Back in old times, there were even incidents where certain people would trade with them. They would leave salmon at a certain area at the edge of the forest, and they could come back at some time later, and they had left blackberries for them. So these are legends, I make a distinction between the legends and what I've seen firsthand. But there are a lot of old stories going back here, of that happening in the area. But for me, in the moment that we saw that, my background is in nursing. And so I was trained to be a detailed observer. So I just wanted to stop and take as much time as I could to do a head-to-toe assessment and try and memorize every feature. So, but that's the only sighting I've had up close. I've heard vocalizations before that I don't know what else they could have been. But yeah, that was pretty incredible.
Yeah, sounds like it.
So you'd be willing to definitely want to see one again sometime, I'm guessing, huh?
Oh, yeah, definitely.
Yeah. You don't think these things are aggressive?
I think they can be, like anything. I think they can be.
Territorial?
Yeah, probably very territorial. I think we...
That's what I thought, too.
Did you notice a smell when you saw this guy? Was there any kind of bad odor or any odor at all? Or
there was a little bit of a wet dog smell, but the way the breeze was carrying, I think it probably kind of carried his scent parallel to where we were, so it wasn't coming straight out. But if anything, maybe just a faint wet dog smell.
Makes sense. It's coming out of the water.
Yeah,
it probably got a little bath. Have you seen anything else up around your area, like any weird lights or dogmen or anything like that? Has there been reports of anything like that?
This is also a strange area for unexplainable things in the sky. And it's hard to say. We do have a military base not far from here.
Really?
Practically everyone I know that's lived out here their whole life has, when you really get to know them, they'll say, yeah, we've seen things. We've seen things in the sky here. I had a friend that was a fisherman who saw a craft come out of the water in front of his boat and hover and then go back down.
I've heard that story somewhere else before, a different kind of situation where something was underwater, it lights, and it came up and then took off.
Yeah,
okay.
And there was even something news about another time in the same area that we had our sighting exactly by Camino Island. And I'm not sure what year this was, but it was even on the news that a lot of people saw lights in the water moving really quickly underwater, and no one had any explanation about it. The military said they didn't have anything in the area.
Of course they didn't.
So, I'm sure somebody could probably research that and find it in, it would have been in the Everett Herald. It would have been on probably King 5 News. And this would have been in the early 90s.
All right.
Okay.
There have been a lot of weird things seen in this area.
That's interesting.
Oh, yeah.
Sarah, I was telling you, I was in Vancouver about a month or so ago, and me and my friend did some squatching up in the woods up there. It gets pretty creepy up in those woods sometimes, and I'm sure where you're at, it's probably even more creepier.
Yeah.
But you're used to it, I'm sure, too. You've grown up with it. But
I've grown up there.
When you got
just learn to have a respect for it. We don't belong way out there in the woods poking around at night.
Right. Yeah.
So we kind of leave them their area.
What are the kind of animals you have up there? Do you have the bears, the mountain lions, all that stuff?
Yeah, we do. We've got, even coming down close to the road, every year there's cougars seen. All the time we have coyotes here, but even the bears the last couple of years have been coming, especially during COVID. It seems like the wildlife has really...
Yeah, see what I tell you.
There you go, Brian.
Here.
Brian has a theory that due to COVID is one of the reasons why more sightings are happening for whatever reasons.
Yeah, because more people are getting out in the woods and camping, and
it seems like more things are
enjoying nature. And
yeah, last summer somebody saw one run right across the main thoroughfare on the reservation here.
See what I mean?
Earlier in the year, there was a bear, seen right in several times actually in that same area. So, we've got deer that come through all the time. It's just this year has been kind of epic for wildlife in this area. I'm sure it's COVID related.
Right.
Well, probably that and wildfires.
Yeah.
It's half your state burned.
Yeah, that's true. We've been fortunate here, knock on wood.
Oh, that's good.
Yeah, our state's been hit pretty hard.
Mm-hmm.
So what do you think about, we're a couple guys in Indiana, and we never really had any encounters. We're interested in, we're doing this podcast for that reason and trying to prove this out. But to you guys, it seems like it's more of a natural thing that you've just known and grown up with all your life. Is that how it is? Right. It's not like it's a big deal, as big a deal to people who, aren't around these things.
No, but it's really not. The Coast Salish people have names for these creatures. It's something that's part of their terrestrial habitat, just with the eagle and the bear and the deer.
Wow.
It's not some fantasy that somebody made up. These are real animals that have been here as long as people have. Mm-hmm. And the native people have learned to respect them and just kind of live in harmony with them as much as possible. Go ahead.
No, go ahead. Do you think these things are a natural creature, flesh and blood, or do you think they're some kind of paranormal, maybe alien related, or are they, just like us, descendant from some kind of, from whatever?
I think about that a lot. It's really hard to say. I know what stood in front of me was a flesh and blood creature. But as far as what their abilities are, what they can do. I don't know. I know a lot of people that have had, sightings over the years, few hunters, and some of the old stories here, they say that they can affect you mentally. And I wonder if they use infrasound or something. I think that they have abilities that we can't quantify, and we can only speculate on until we can really study. Right. But, it's hard to say. I wouldn't be surprised if they were very close to us on the human panel. Okay. But, I think the differences between us are something we need to look into, because they do seem to have special capabilities.
Well, the reason I was asking was because I've heard of, the cloaking thing with these guys. Mm-hmm. Yes. I've heard of the strange lights and orbs that people see before or after they see these things, or even UFOs. So it's just weird, that correlation. And I believe people when they're telling these stories. Why would they make that up,
Right. If I can relate a tidbit from a friend's sighting. Yeah. A friend of mine saw one, and it smacked the side of the cabin that she was in, and she ran out and yelled. She didn't know what it was, and she saw this thing hop over the fence, and as it glanced over its shoulder and saw her looking at it, it literally camouflaged itself like a predator. Yep. As she was looking at it, she could see it continue to move by its outline, but it was camouflaged. It went immediately to.
That's the cloaking that we're talking about, which that's so weird to me.
She's a very rational person that's almost told that to practically no one, because,
And I believe her. Do you believe her?
Oh, 100%.
Absolutely.
Know that when she's telling me something, when it's true.
If these things can do that's one reason why they're so probably hard to find, see, catch, whatever. But that's got to put some kind of, I don't know, spiritual, phenomenal kind of thing to them. And I think that's got to be part of it, Brian. You don't think so?
No, spiritual? No.
Well, maybe not spiritual. Dimensional? What word do you want me to use? What would you call it, Brian? I don't know what you call it.
I know we have animals, chameleons and
supernatural
and different animals in the natural world that can camouflage themselves. Maybe they have some special ability.
Maybe it has something to do with their fur and how they can move, and
maybe they have that.
Light bends when it hits their. Yeah.
Maybe they're able to, Brian, maybe
like a chameleon, they change their color. Maybe they blend in with their environments, just like a chameleon. Maybe they've learned, maybe they've evolved that way.
It's possible.
Mm-hmm.
It could be, and it could be that either they or us have some genes that aren't from here.
That's possible. Anything's possible.
Yeah. Thousands of years ago, when there were higher civilizations, if they did some gene splicing, I don't know.
Yeah, you never know.
Yeah,
that could be too. That's another theory going around.
Well, you have a lot of theories. You have the Nephilim theory as well, but
yeah.
Well, Sarah, what do you think? What do you think the reason is we haven't proven scientifically that these things exist, or we haven't captured one, or maybe we have? But why doesn't the world know that Bigfoot is real? I mean,
I think combination. If you talk to indigenous people in any part of the world, they'll have a name for them. They'll tell you they're real.
Yeah.
I think that there is, for some reason, and I don't mean to sound like a conspiracy nut, but I think it's an effort, a coordinated effort, maybe to suppress the evidence that they do exist. Why, I couldn't imagine. But I think they are highly intelligent. They know how to stay away from us. They don't need us.
Nope. They've lived this long without us.
Yeah, I think there's plenty of evidence that they exist.
Yeah.
So
I just don't. I think people don't want to know. I think most people really don't want to know.
Can you imagine what would happen to the forestry industry and the tourism industry? If people had to admit that this kind of thing lurking out there.
I think it would affect a lot of industries. I think it would affect the religious industry a lot.
Mm-hmm.
For sure.
It'd put people in panic. It'd affect the camping industry, probably the RV industry, maybe. I don't know. But I don't know.
Maybe that
I'm
might
out
help
there.
might help the camping tourism.
Maybe. I want to see one. I don't care. Some
I
people
definitely
say,
want to. Yeah. We're gonna have to come pay you a visit.
yeah, we're gonna come.
Yeah.
We'll meet
come
you
to
up at the
Washington, I'll
Olympic
take you on a tour.
Yeah, we'll meet you up at the park, the Olympic State Park or whatever.
Heck yeah.
Definitely. Yeah.
Well, Washington is the most popular state. I guess if you're going to see one, that's where you need to go. But
That's what they say.
do you think you'll see another one, Sarah, sometime? Is it that common?
I
where you're
sure
at?
hope so. I think there's a good chance if I, get out of my house enough and out in the woods, out at some of the beaches and some
Now,
of the areas.
what time of day was that? Did you say? Was that dusk?
It was about-
Closer to dusk?
It was about 9:30 in the morning.
Oh, it was early.
Yeah, it was
Alright.
early. And it just felt like we got lucky. They were going in a direction and we just kind of intersected them. And we just got
Nice.
really lucky.
You interrupted their morning swim.
Right.
Yeah. But, just last year, a group was seen by someone, just a mile or two from there. A whole family group with little ones.
Wow. So that is a pretty hot spot right there.
Sarah, do you have any other stories from any other friends or any other encounters that you know about? Sounds like you might know some more than what you've already told us.
I mean, I know a lot of people, over the years that have hunted in Washington State, and they've all had sightings, from seeing a full on Sasquatch to seeing a pair of glowing, wide set green eyes coming down the hillside, and they decided they'd leave, before it got to them. It's hard to say. There are a lot of people that have seen him out here. Trying to think if anything comes to mind immediately.
Have you ever had any dangerous encounters or where anyone had, felt threatened or anything happened, any rock throwing or anything like that?
I mean, not anybody I know, except the friend that had the one that smacked the side of her house. It would come on a regular basis and smack the side of her house. And she finally, got brave enough to poke her head out, and that's what she saw.
Sounds like somebody's just playing around there.
Yeah.
Trying to be a joker.
Yeah, I think they like to antagonize sometimes.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
From what it sounds like. I've heard a lot of that. So.
And I think they're really curious, and probably looking for an easy meal.
Right. Yep.
I have friends that live out in the woods, like way out in the woods out here, and they hear stuff all the time. I was just out there a couple of weeks ago, and we were outside, having a smoke, and the frogs are really super loud this time of year, and nothing quiets these frogs down out there, not the chainsaw, not trucks coming in, not people. And as we're sitting there, all of a sudden, everything went just deathly silent. The frogs stopped, everything stopped. And she says, oh yeah, we get them out here all the time. She grew up on that spot. And when she was a kid, when the parents would go to town, they would come, and the Bigfoots would come and harass the kids sometimes, and they'd have to hide in the house under the bed until the parents came back.
Okay.
But they leave pets out there. They have to keep their pets inside. They will take the dogs and cats if they're able.
I've heard that. I thought they took dogs to eat them, but like you said, you found that, or you heard about that German Shepherd that was ripped in half. I don't know if the dogs are they kill them because, they're the ones that alert humans to what's going on.
That's
faster.
kind of what we felt like, like it was a big dog. Like it also sent a message to all the other dogs. The biggest dog on your block is,
Have you ever heard any howls or any sounds, Sarah?
Not here. I've heard howls over in eastern Washington, way, way up in the hills. My brother and I were fishing. I was a kid. We were out on just a little inflatable out on this little lake, just a really small lake. And I heard what could only be a Sasquatch. There's just nothing else out there that has that deep chested roar that just goes on, and it reverberates in your chest. You feel it.
Mm-hmm.
We instantly went back to shore and got back in the truck and went home.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Somebody didn't want you hanging out there.
No. That's crazy.
No.
I've heard more stories of people not having visual encounters, but they've heard that roar, that scream, and that's vibrated them, and that's enough to send them on their way home.
Really? I mean, you feel it in your chest. It's hard to describe.
Yeah, that's what everybody says.
That's what makes
Brian,
me
you want
wonder
to feel it in your chest, don't you, Brian?
Hell yeah.
Yeah. I wonder if they're able to use infrasound.
Yeah, they've been talking about infrasound on Expedition Bigfoot.
I've heard that before, where it makes people sick to their stomach because of the way these things come down.
One of the guys that was on that show, it hit him really hard, and he had to go to the hospital and everything.
Yeah, that's right.
Wow.
Sarah,
I know, it just hit my fight or flight response, and I was just like, we are out of here.
Yeah.
But I was also going to mention, too, the name that the people here have for this creature is called, they have a story of the basket lady, and they call her Yaya Lee. And this is taught to the children from the time they're real small. And this is going way back about, how you don't venture into the forest by yourself. You don't wander off alone, because Yaya Lee will come and scoop you up in her basket and take you home and eat you.
Oh.
So,
wow.
They do.
Lee, look out.
Yeah. They do have, stories going way back here. And, I remember one other story, too. A couple generations back, at least. Someone shot one and killed it, and they buried it, and the medicine man did the ceremony over him, and gave him a burial. And they came back in the morning, and something had come and dug it up, and there were, a set of Bigfoot tracks coming in and leaving. So apparently they dug it up and took it away. Which
is probably why we never find any remains.
There you go. There's your answer. I think if one is dead or killed, either the family or the group that it belongs to is going to come take it away, because I don't think they ever travel alone.
Mm-hmm.
Or the government's going to take it and keep it covered up. So there's another reason why we can't prove these things. That's my philosophy.
Are there around your area? Are there a lot of caves? Are there a lot of subterranean?
There are said to be, yeah. I haven't, ventured to a lot of them. But yeah, and this habitat would lend itself to that type of thing. I wondered that too, if there might be caves that they could access underwater.
It could be too, yeah.
It's
Brian,
hard to say. Yeah, there are caves around here.
Brian, I think I know where you're going with this. Why don't you go ahead and explain that, why you asked her that question.
That's just one of the theories that why a lot of people don't see them is that they live underground, and that when they do have their dead, maybe that's where they take them. Maybe they have like an elephant burial ground. Elephants wander off, and maybe they have a burial ground that they use, but maybe it's underground.
Right. I wouldn't be surprised at all.
I saw
they've been around a lot longer than we have, so maybe they get it.
They're nocturnal, so they can access places like that, and they're so robust that they don't have to have a heated, indoor space.
Right.
So that kind of opens up a lot of territory for them that's not accessible to us.
Yep.
I saw a post on one of the Bigfoot pages I'm on Facebook about the cave systems of North America and where sightings have taken, and they kind of laid the maps on top of each other, and it was very coincidental how the sightings in the caves matched up, and the lineal lines and the ways they kind of went, the pattern across the United States. It was really weird.
Wholeheartedly.
Which tells me these things are going to caves at nighttime, or they're living in these caves as much as possible, or they're making their own caves. I don't know. That's another reason why we're not, finding or seeing these things all the time. Only when they're out moving around during the day and you just happen to have an encounter. Yeah. Not saying all of them live in caves. Maybe the ones that you saw, Sarah, live on that island. Or they transport back and forth.
Or they go back and forth. Yeah.
I wouldn't be surprised at all if they lived in caves, for as many as they see here regularly.
Right, especially in the Pacific Northwest and Kentucky.
Yeah. There is a lot of territory. They could, I suppose, find some way to build a shelter way back in the woods somewhere, but it just makes more sense to think that they would live in caves.
Right. Yeah, that's what I always thought.
Yeah. I think it's going to take more than SEAL Team 6 to find Bigfoot, because between living in caves and cloaking and who knows what else they're doing.
We'll find him.
Right.
That's why we're here.
I'm sure there's been there's been several that have been killed in the past, in the history. A lot of them probably been killed.
I'm sure more people are shot more than they say, than they're letting on.
And back in the old times or early times, I'm sure the Indians probably killed a lot of them too, or had to. They probably didn't want to, but there's probably times where they did. And
and
just over territory or food.
They have to be a type of human. They have to be so close to us, because there have been stories going way back, not even just here, I think also in Siberia, of women who had been raped by these and produced a viable offspring.
Oh, really?
Mm-hmm.
Wow.
Not in this Pacific Northwest that I know of, but I've heard stories. Have you heard the story of Xana?
Come to think of that, yes. Now that you say that, I've heard this story.
No.
And I've heard similar tales throughout the Americas that's happened before here. So, I mean, but I think that if that's true, that they would have to be so close to us, genetically.
You know what?
They would definitely have to be, because we can't mate with monkeys.
Right. They would have to be a type of primitive human.
I did see something about, there was a couple twins born. I think they were twins, or there was two boys born. And it might have been a Russian country. And they were really awkward looking, tall, lanky, strange. They moved weird when they walked. It was just really weird. And they were really tall, like 7 feet tall, and almost 7 feet tall. And this is like a long time ago. And I can't remember the clip or where I saw it, but I'd love to find it. It was almost like their mother was raped by a Bigfoot or mated with a Bigfoot. It was strange. They weren't hairy at all. That was the thing. They weren't hairy at all, but they just were weird looking. I don't know. Who knows?
And what you mentioned about the possibility of a relic population of the Nephilim that survived, they were supposed to have been able to breed with humans.
Right.
But it makes you wonder. I don't know. It's just speculation.
I'm not a religious person really, but when you talk about that, my mind's opened about anything, I just want to figure out what really is going on. And I've said this before, I don't have to have science or the government prove or tell me that Bigfoot's real. I just want to see one.
Right.
Right. Yeah. I see one with my own eyes. Yeah.
Right.
Yeah.
That one little tiny ounce of doubt that I have, just because I haven't seen it, will be taken care of and put away. Then I can put that to rest.
Exactly.
Yep.
It's really not doubt, but I just want a confirmation.
Keep getting out there.
Well, we're going to try. Sara, we appreciate you coming on and talking to us.
Absolutely.
Thank you for having me. I appreciate it.
No, thank you. And if you see anything else out there, you got to get a hold of us and tell us that next story.
I will.
Yeah. Or, if you've heard somebody see another one or whatever.
Yeah.
Okay.
Let us know.
Yeah, feel free to contact us. All right.
All right. Definitely.
Heck yeah.
Thank you.
Thank you for coming on, Sara. You have a good one. We'll take care. You take care.
All right. Thank you. You too.
Thanks,
See ya.
Sara.
Hey guys, it's Todd from Cryptid Creatures. Have you ever thought about making your own podcast? If so, you got to use Anchor. That's Anchor. The cool thing about Anchor is it's free. There's creation tools that allow you to record and edit your podcast right from your phone or your computer. They'll distribute your podcast for you so it can be heard on multiple platforms like Spotify, Apple Podcasts, and many more. You can make money on your podcast. The more people that listen, the more money you can make. It's everything you need to make a podcast all in one place. Download the free Anchor app or go to anchor.fm to get started.
All right, everybody. That was a great show. Thank you for tuning in. And if you want to get at us, you can email us at
info at cryptidcreatures.co.
Right. And we're also on Facebook at Cryptid Creatures, or on Instagram at Cryptid_Creatures.
We got some Twitter action too, right, Bri?
Yep, we got our Twitter app going on, and that's at Cryptid Creature 1. No E on the end of creature.
Right.
And we just got the YouTube page up and running, so check that out at Cryptid Creatures.
Definitely. I can't wait to check it out myself.
Yeah.
All right, man.
So hopefully we'll get some video going on there, and
Right. You guys stay tuned. We got more guests coming on lined up and some good shows on their way. So thanks again for listening, everybody.
Oh, yeah.
Brian, you take care, man.
Yep, you too, Todd.
Until next episode.
You guys are out there in the woods. Keep your eyes and ears open. Let us know what you hear and see.
Right on. Take care, Brian.
All right, take it easy.